Rainbow Reflections, Book 1, A Kind of Magic, Chapter 25. Was It All Worth It? Classes were starting to keep all of the students busy once more. Even Zin, taking less classes, was finding himself doing extra schoolwork during his free time. He was so focused on doing martial arts outside of class that he was now practicing with Sarala on a regular basis. Ren joined at times, but she often had other homework to do. She didn't like to skip it, even if Sarala didn't mind turning in sloppy work. Ren also had the feeling that her family was keeping secrets. Zin always left the tower without telling Ren where he was going, and Ren was bogged down by too much work to pursue him. Hyaktu also never seemed to be around, apologizing to his kids at least once a week as he claimed he was too busy grading homework and trying to practice martial arts. When Ren asked if he'd found more mirror shards, he would shake his head but never expand on it. Ren had a feeling something was going on behind the scenes, but she was clearly not supposed to inquire about it. Saddened by all the secrecy, Ren stopped asking questions and focused on her copious homework. She was luckily still able to enjoy her birthday when February 12th rolled around, her family acting like normal for the day. Ren celebrated turning 15 by having fun in the art classes. Zin made her day extra special, creating something for her in each of the classes, from a funny-looking hat in fashion to a bad attempt at a song in choir. Ren appreciated the efforts and began to feel more hopeful that her brother wasn't pushing away from her after all. Hyaktu, meanwhile, was busy teaching classes that he only had the evening to spend with Ren. The two meditated together after dinner, then he gave her a new mossy plant that Ren squealed about in delight. She began to feel more hopeful that her father was getting things figured out and would be back to normal soon. This definitely seemed to be the case, as Hyaktu seemed less distracted in classes as time went on. February soon ended, her father at ease as the snow melted away with the arrival of spring. The forest was once more blooming with flowers, and Ren was happy to catch sight of the farm cat weaving between blossoming plants on occasion. The first years had finally finished the basic exercises of producing their own elements in magic channeling. Their first creative homework assignment appeared in March, when the students had to come up with a practical, everyday use of what they could use their elemental magic for. "I hope I do my magic okay," Ren said, biting her lip nervously over breakfast that Moonday morning. Sarala stared at her. "You're one of the best magicians in the class," she said bluntly. "But what if I do it wrong?" Sarala rolled her eyes. "Quit your worrying and eat your muffin before I steal it." Ren stuck her tongue out at Sarala, snatching up her apple cinnamon muffin before her friend could take it. "I wish I could do that assignment," Zin said, looking a bit glum for a moment. But he quickly brightened up. "I guess I will next year." The minute bell soon rang for class, and they went to the Magic Studies classroom together. Khurshid lectured the class about different ways that magic could be used in day-to-day lives, as if giving the first years ideas for their homework in the following class, if they still had yet to come up with something. Once the lecture was over, Zin waved to Ren and Sarala, then left in the direction of the theater. "Where's he going?" Ren asked Sarala. "No clue," Sarala said simply. The girls crossed the short distance to the magic channeling classroom. Ren was tempted to trail Zin, as it looked like he was heading for the elevator that would bring him up to the student quarters. But that couldn't be right. Why would Zin have to go up there? "Does Zin have a new friend he's not telling us about?" Ren asked Sarala in a low tone as the students went to stand by their elemental cauldrons. "How should I know?" Sarala asked gruffly, clearly wary of Ren asking the same questions for weeks. Ren shrugged, but she couldn't think of any other reason why Zin would go to the student quarters if he was indeed heading to the platform.
"I hope you're all ready to show off your unique magic,"
Khurshid said, once the final bell finished ringing.
"Who'd like to go first?"
It came as no surprise that C3 raised his hand quickly. Khurshid seemed to expect this, and called for him to move to the front of the classroom. C3 took a few books from his bag and brought them to the front. He set these on Khurshid's desk, then moved to the side and raised his wand in front of him.
Books, come to me,
C3 ordered briskly, waving his wand about. A line of air streamed from the end of C3's wand. When creating one's own element, the element came directly out of the wand or directly out of the body if the body was channeling the magic instead. This was different from when the students had controlled the elements around them, as their surroundings would move in accordance to the wand. C3's wind wrapped around the books on the desk and carried them over to him. He caught them and smiled lightly.
I would like to think that this bit of magic would come in handy when carrying homework to you.
Nobody seemed impressed with his magic. After all, the air magicians had already used their magic to shove objects around the room. Carrying an object was just an extra step. C3 glared at their bland faces before returning to the air cauldron at the back of the room.
Nicely done,
Khurshid said with a nod.
Who's next?
Me, Ren said, and she skipped forward. She had props as well, which she'd stuffed in her backpack from dinner the previous night. She took out an onion and a big chopping knife that she had permission to use from the kitchen. She pointed her wand at her head and said, Make an air bubble around my head so I do not cry while cutting this onion. Her magic complied, the wand producing a large bubble around her entire head. She then proceeded to chop the onion on the front desk, careful that she didn't slam the knife too hard into the wood. When she had finished, the students nearest the front were wiping at their crying eyes. Ren, however, was perfectly fine. She beamed around at her classmates as they applauded her. That's genius! Raimugi called out with a sniffle.
Quite so,
Khurshid agreed.
Well done, Ren. You actually did more advanced magic than I was expecting of the class. You set your wand down, and yet your magic continued to hold tight. Good job.
Ren beamed at him. She scooped up the cut onions and knife and returned to the cauldron. She set the knife in her bag, where she'd return it to the kitchen at lunch, then munched on the onion pieces. She offered some to the other two air students, but only Murneo took a tiny handful. C3 glared at her, probably angry that she had gotten praise when he did not. The class proceeded to watch presentations. Some of the first years did the same as C3, just adding an extra step to the basic exercises they'd already done in class. After about half of the students went, Sarala decided to go. She walked over to the obstacle course that took up most of the room, where the ground was completely made of stone. Most of the fire magicians had demonstrated at the obstacle course too, where their fire wouldn't burn any of their fellow students. Sarala lifted her wand and focused on the ground for a long time. Then she took a deep breath and commanded sharply, Lift the ground and make it bumpy, so nobody can tread over it easily. The floor in front of her vibrated a bit, then several stones spiked up. They were so pointy that Ren would hate to step on them. Some other parts of the ground shifted slightly, giving them a rolled look. Sarala turned back to face Khurshid, who was frowning.
You used your wand to control the ground, not to create your own ground,
he said.
Put the ground back and try again.
Sarala whipped back to the stone floor and growled, Make the ground completely smooth. The rock shifted back into position, flattening out as if it had never changed in the first place. She then lifted her wand in front of her, but didn't move for a long moment. Ren was beginning to wonder if she had forgotten what she was supposed to be doing, but then she spoke. Make the ground bumpy, she ordered. This time, a substance appeared from the wand and hardened as it dropped to the floor with a squelching turned clattering thud. It became a single spiky stone. As Khurshid had explained many times to the Earth Magicians, creating their own element would be very difficult to manage, and the effect was usually the opposite of grand.
Better,
Khurshid said, as Sarala wiped sweat from her forehead.
May I ask, how was making the ground bumpy an everyday task?
Sarala reddened. It wasn't what I was going to do. I originally planned to make the ground smooth, so people with injuries or in wheelchairs could get across it more easily. But the ground was already too flat, so I raised it,
That is considerate of you.
Khurshid said. They continued to watch the presentations until the end of class.
Good efforts today.
Khurshid exclaimed as the bell rang.
There won't be any homework this week. Keep up the good work. Class dismissed.
Ren was relieved they weren't assigned any homework. She and Sarala exited the classroom, making their way towards the greenhouse with the other first years. Now that it was spring, the greenhouse windows were wide open, allowing noisy birds and insects in again. Before she and Sarala could enter the garden leading to the greenhouse, Ren glanced over her shoulder towards the eastern building. She half expected to see Zin coming down on the stone platform from the student quarters, but there was nobody there. Maybe I just imagined Zin going that way, she thought dully. I just wish I knew where he was always wandering off to. The weeks pressed on as March turned into April. Ren was trying to keep a closer eye on Zin, and had even tried to confront him about where he was going. But Zin said he was just bored and went around the school to get some fresh air after being cooped up in the tower. Ren wasn't sure if she believed this answer, but finals were only a little over a month away, and she didn't want to deal with whatever other trouble Zin might be getting into. On April 6th, Ren and Zin celebrated Sarala's 16th birthday, but soon had to bid her farewell as she went to her kung fu class after lunch. She was still a blue sash, much to their surprise. Whether she tried to test for the purple sash or not, they didn't know, as she hardly spoke about the class to the twins. Have you noticed that she's been more closed recently? Zin commented to Ren, as the two made their way to the Tai Chi studio to work on their own martial arts. Sarala? Who else doesn't like to tell anything of their past? Zin pointed out. You, Ren thought, though you're more silent about the present, not the past. She speaks less and less each time I see her, Zin continued. Did something happen between you two again? Ren raised an eyebrow at her brother. No? Why are you blaming me for Sarala's moods? I don't know, Zin said with a shrug, opening the door to the Tai Chi studio. I just thought... But whatever Zin might have thought, Ren didn't find out. She collapsed to the floor, screaming in pain as her head hurt more than ever before, ready to burst like a tomato in a hot pot. She was having another vision. Focus! She tried to tell herself. Focus! There was that shiny object again. That wasn't water rushing towards her, but some sort of magic swirl. The purple thing looked almost like a face, and there were more images Ren was able to focus on. Something transparent, something large, something cracked. Ren panted as the pain vanished almost as quickly as it had come. She was left with a small headache, but she ignored it as she sat up in a daze. Zin was sitting beside her, his face concerned. There was more to it this time, Ren said, and she quickly told him what she'd seen before she could forget. What did the shiny thing look like? I couldn't tell. It was blinding. What about the water? How do you know it's magic? I mean, was it water magic? Is Mint going to flood the school or something? Ren snorted. Stop being silly, Zin. I could feel that it was magic, you know? No. Well, anyway, it was like a big wave. But it wasn't water. No. Okay. Well, what was the large thing? I couldn't tell. I could only see that it was something massive. That's not helpful. And the cracked thing? I don't know, Ren muttered. She sighed. These visions are useless. I was hoping I'd be done with them. Zin shrugged. It seems like you're not, he pointed out. Should we go tell Dad? Dad's in the middle of class, or the middle of a test for all we know, Ren pointed out. But this is important, Zin said. I promise I'll tell him before dinner, Ren muttered. I think I'm going to lay down for a while. She got to her feet shakily and unlocked the tower door. Zin trailed after her, looking uncertain. Do you need me to get Fern or anything? Zin asked. No, Ren said, taking several steps before plopping on the couch. I just need some rest. She closed her eyes, hoping to fall into a dreamless sleep. But she soon found herself in the blackest space she'd ever seen, with no distinguishable walls or floor. She was surrounded by purple faces, peering down at her from all angles. A wave of magic overcame her, locking her in place. Something large was headed for her. Ren's eyes flew open and the nightmare ended. Zin was sitting on the armchair nearby, watching her anxiously. Sighing, she turned away before he could ask if she was okay. She closed her eyes, but did her best not to fall asleep again. Eventually, she heard the tower door open. She looked up to see Hyaktu entering the family room. You're back! Zin yelped, and he hurried over to Hyaktu. Ren had another vision. Another vision? Hyaktu asked, his calm face instantly concerned. He hurried to the couch as Ren sat up, taking a seat beside her. Are you okay? Ren groaned lightly. Great, he was just getting back to normal. Now he's going to be all stressed and distant again. Ren? I'm fine, she said, forcing herself to sound cheerful. The upbeat tone gradually faded from her voice as she told him what she'd seen, though she did her best to keep a smile plastered to her face. How long has it been since your last vision? Hyaktu asked her when she finished. Months, right? Yeah. He fingered his mustache, staring at the ground in deep thought. Finally, he glanced over at her. I think the vision might be coming true soon. Really? Ren mumbled. You've had the same vision 3 times now, and you're seeing more with each one, Hyaktu explained. The more vivid it gets, the closer it is to happening. I think. I will check with Astor on that one. Plus, it's been months since anything of note has happened. Anything of note? Zin questioned, cocking his head. Hyaktu ignored him and asked Ren, Do you have any idea of where you were in the vision? Or if these things were happening to you or around you? You, specifically, not someone else? Ren frowned. I'm not sure, she admitted, trying to think back. I couldn't really make out my surroundings. I was focused on the things I saw, or trying to, anyway. If you have the vision again, I'd like you to try focusing on the surroundings, Hyaktu said. Ren sighed and rested her chin on top of her open palm. I hope I don't have it again, she muttered. Hyaktu put his hand on her shoulder and rubbed it soothingly. We all hope that, he said solemnly. But you might not have a choice. It felt bad, though, Ren murmured. Not just getting the vision with my head feeling like it'd explode, but the vision itself. It felt dangerous. Hyaktu stood up abruptly. I'll look more into this. It's not much to go off of, but I'll do my best. And I will protect you from whatever might be coming. Both of you, he added, glancing at Zin still lingering nearby. Without another word, Hyaktu left the tower. The twins watched him go, then Ren slumped back down on the couch. She wished she had seen more to help her father. What was the point of the visions if she couldn't see everything going on? How were they ever going to warn her of anything? And why did it hurt so much? Hold on. That's bright light, she realized suddenly, sitting upright again. It was a bit like that bright light I saw from Sarala's room. Are you okay? Zin asked, staring at her for her sudden movement. Yes, Ren said after a small pause. I just need some water. Do you think you could get some for me? You got it, Zin said at once, and he raced away. Ren was off the couch the moment the tower door closed, hurrying up the stairs to Sorala's room. But Sorala doesn't have anything that could make that bright light, Ren thought, panting as she reached the 5th floor at last. Unless, what if it's her knives? I didn't know she had knives when I saw the light. Is it possible they're enchanted? Ren opened the door, glad Sorala hadn't locked it. She looked in at the plain room, empty apart from the furniture. No, that's just silly. How could it be the knives? She can't enchant objects, and she said she made them herself. Besides, she clearly hides them away, so how would I be able to see their light from outside? She walked over to the desk and opened the drawer. The knives were hidden in the back, where Sorala had placed them the last time Ren had been in the room. Clearly, she had not practiced with the weapons since she had been caught. Definitely can't be the knives, Ren uttered. So stupid of me to think that. She sighed and walked down the stairs. As she reached the 3rd floor, she heard Zin's voice call for her in the family room below. Ren quietly opened the door to her bedroom and went to sit down on her bed, in position by the time Zin darted through the gaping doorway. There you are, Zin said, holding a cup of water. I was worried when I didn't see you. I think I just want to go to bed, Ren lied. Thanks for the water. Zin gave her the cup and left the room, pausing only once to glance over his shoulder uneasily. Ren stared down at the water in her cup, a knot twisting in her stomach. What if it was the knives that were causing the bright light? Should she tell Hyaktu about it? I can't. Sorala made those knives herself. They're the only thing she owns. I can't have Dad confiscate them just because they might have glowed for a few seconds. And it's such a slim chance that they glowed anyway. Sorala can't enchant them and doesn't seem interested in enchanting things. Ren sighed and sipped at her water. I just won't say anything. Not unless I have proof. Besides, Dad's clearly been trying to figure out my visions in the mirror shard all these months. He seemed to calm down, so maybe he figured something else out that he's just not telling me. Yet even as she had that thought, she doubted it. He said nothing of note has been happening, so he probably hasn't figured out anything. Grumbling in discontent, Ren placed her cup on the nightstand and lay back on her bed. But I can't tell him about Sorala's knives. They've got nothing to do with what's going on. They won't help him. She rolled onto her side, ignoring the glasses jabbing into her skin as she closed her eyes. We'll figure it out. We have to.